and welcome to the Just One Word podcast. I am so excited to dig someone I don't actually know very well, but I've always been a big admirer of, kind of from the distance. We're in a community together. This is Michelle Villalobos. Is that good enough?
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right, cool. Um, and she has bravely volunteered to be here today to share with us her life story. We're going to be picking out these one word themes, and ultimately, hopefully, by the end of the hour, we're actually going to come up with her one word. So without further ado, we're just going to dive right in. How about you just introduce yourself? How are you known in the world? And then we'll go back into your story.
Well, at the moment, and for the last maybe 12 or 13 years, my company is called Superstar Activator. And that's kind of what I've built my career around is helping people shine their light in the world, helping them elevate themselves and help elevate humanity in general. How to contribute, how to be someone who adds value to others.
Hmm. I'm already hearing so many words.
Yay!
Why do you do what you do? I'm just curious.
Oh, that's you go right to it, don't you, Aaron?
Yeah,
Um,
let's not waste time.
I guess one of my highest values, I guess is going to go in one of those special boxes, is expression, full self-expression. And I really believe that we're each gifted with certain talents, gifts, special in Spanish we say dones. These are like, gifts. And I think the purpose of life is to express them fully and to bring our highest and best to others and to the world.
Hmm. Are there certain ways that you find expression is more or less valuable, or is it just anything's on the table?
I mean, I would probably say anything's on the table. And the ways that I'm drawn to express is a lot of through artistry, through words,
Hmm.
through teaching, through leadership. I mean, that's all expression. And kind of because we were talking briefly, like the direction that I'm moving my own business, my own life in, is that I think that at the fundamental level of all reality is energy and that our energy and how we show up in the world is expression as well. And so there's it's a dimension of expression that doesn't get as much airtime, but we can all see it and feel it when we're with somebody who has like really good vibes or great energy, and we can also really feel it when somebody is not great energy. So I feel that there's this energetic component underneath the surface that's an aspect of expression and that influences our expression too.
So have you always been like this? Tell us about Michelle as a little one.
Well, okay, that's a great. You're good at this. There's a Michelle as a little one was extremely self-expressed. She was kind of loud, maybe a little bossy, very creative, wanted to be seen, wanted to be heard. I loved to sing, I loved to dance, I loved to create talent shows in my basement for all the neighborhood kids. And then there was like from maybe around 8 years old to well into, adulthood, where I kind of suppressed a lot of that and in favor of accolades, achievement, straight A's, Ivy League school, master's degree, that whole thing. Um, so there was kind of my parents are amazing. I love them. Everybody's great. And, they had certain values. They're Cuban immigrants. They valued hard work, like success, achievement. And that level of expression and artistry wasn't necessarily something they knew how to work with or channel. And so the easier thing was sort of like, hey, can you calm down a little bit, keep it down, tone it down, Michelle, and just head down, get some good grades. And so the message was sort of like, don't be too much. And I know a lot of people, a lot of women especially, can relate to this, like, children should be seen and not heard. And so I really did sort of try to fit into a box that I thought would get me like the pats on the head, the gold stars. And it did, and it worked well into my, I guess 20s until it stopped working. And then it just was a period of like trying to contort myself to be somebody I wasn't.
Hmm.
And I had to, have the midlife crisis, the breakdown, the whole 9 yards in my 30s, and then kind of that's how came back to that Michelle, that little Michelle, came back to her.
Yeah. What had to happen in your 30s for you to have that moment? And the reason I ask is because one of my favorite things to talk about is how like inauthenticity is unsustainable. And it
Unsustainable.
just like comes and gets you, right? Like when you build like a house of a life that isn't what you should be living in.
100%. I mean so it was a multi-stage breakdown. It was the first breakdown in like 2007 when I had kind of reached the pinnacle of a career. I was the executive publisher of a lifestyle magazine in Miami. I was going to fancy parties. I was hanging out with celebrities, getting flown to house parties with, Nelly singing in a helicopter. Like crazy that you from the outside looking in, you'd look at my life. I looked at my life. I was like, I've got it made, but I was miserable. And it was a very toxic environment, even though it looked beautiful on the surface. So there was that first level of breakdown where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to forge my own path. And that's when I became an entrepreneur. And I did that for about 7 years, but I rebuilt the same fake masked life. Like it was good on the outside, but I still wasn't in alignment. I wasn't being authentic. And then, long story very short, after about 7.5 years of that, my health broke down. I think ultimately the stress of living, I call it divine dissonance, the stress of living an inauthentic life, it'll give you the light messages and then it'll give you stronger messages. And finally, I mean, I think that life just was like, oh, really? You're not going to listen? Well, we're going to just make it all come down. So my health broke down first. I was engaged to a guy that turned out to be, a con artist. There's no real other way to say it. He had a double life. He faked a job. He was faking business trips. So it was like Dateline NBC style. And then 1, 2 punch. And then the third domino was the business. It just dried up because I couldn't sustain the level of intensity of working because I was a workaholic while nursing the heartbreak and the physical, breakdown in my body. So it was like 1, 2, 3, it all came crashing down at once. And, it's sort of like if I wasn't successful, if I wasn't young and healthy, and if I wasn't about to get married like I thought I was, like who was I? I didn't have an identity anymore. So it kind of all dissolved at once. And I had to like really dig, who am I really? And I worked with a mentor, thank God. And he was a spiritual guy, and I was an atheist.
Mm.
And he sort of like, I had a massive, it took years, but I had a big awakening to like a whole nother aspect of reality that I had completely discarded and discounted and even disparaged, which was spirituality.
How long did that take you to kind of go through that whole reinvention?
I mean, it's still happening, but it
Hmm.
started in 2014. That was the big breakdown.
Hmm.
And I would say by 2018 or so, my whole worldview had by then really shifted. I mean, like I no longer was an atheist at that point. I believed in, I had already, really dived into the down the rabbit hole of quantum physics and all the woo-woo stuff, the witchy stuff, as you called it earlier.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
So
it's
what
about
did life look like on the other side of that?
Well, I mean, the funny part was my business took off,
Hmm.
with a lot more grace and ease. So that was interesting. So the breakdown, I thought I was starting over, and my business ended up growing because I changed from the inside out. And I think people could feel that the authenticity, the vulnerability, the compassion that I was able to have for people after I'd gone through my own kind of dark night of the soul. So that's one thing. The business grew. And it was way more aligned with my natural gifts and strengths. I was not trying to like build something that was counter to my nature. I was starting to build, this is one of my big words is alignment. I started building in alignment with who I really was, my gifts, my strengths, my nature. I started building in alignment with a higher purpose, something that motivated me, which in this case was like activating superstars to uplift humanity, full self-expression and leadership. I started taking care of my body. I started meditating. I quit smoking and drinking. I used to be People have a hard time believing it when they meet me now. Like, you were a smoker? I'm like, yeah. And guess what else? I was a closet smoker. I wasn't even out, I was fake, like not faking, I was hiding it.
Mm.
So I started taking care of my body, started becoming, into breath work and even psychedelics. I did journeys with shaman and I became part of a priestess circle for 7 years. Like I tried a lot of different things and sort of found a worldview that gave me meaning and purpose.
Mm.
Um, and I started reorganizing my life around my actual values instead of the highest value being achievement. It's gone through a bunch of iterations, but I'd say my highest value now is my spiritual growth.
Mm.
And so I reoriented my life around that.
Mm. Do you feel like that's a temporary thing or a phase, or is this just the new way of being Michelle?
Well, you never know with me because I definitely have phases. Um, yeah, who knows? I'm not willing to make a claim yet. I would say that, over the years it's evolved and like where we are now is that the spirituality has been steadily moving up and the achievement has been steadily moving down
Mhm.
as a value. And it's funny because, the less attached I am to achievement, the happier I am and the, better I seem to do. I'm not saying necessarily I make a ton more money, but I make it with a lot more grace and ease and flow and joy and meaningfulness.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, one thing that you and I have in common, I think, is working with people who have messages to share. And what have you noticed in just doing this line of work as a coach and a consultant and a teacher who's like a space holder for people as they're discovering what it is they want to share with the world and put it out there?
Yeah, I would say, well, kind of where I am in this moment is, I used to think that the most important thing was getting the clarity. And with the clarity would come the motivation and the strategy and all that. The clarity comes first, strategy comes first, the idea comes first. And now I really believe that the energy precedes the outcomes. That when we do two things, when we feel the feelings we have, which is something I had never learned how to do in my family. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to this. You know, Feelings were sort of inconvenient, something to be fixed, particularly the negative ones, but even the really big positive ones, it was like there was a bandwidth sort of. So I never really learned how to process my emotions, feel them, honor them, derive wisdom from them, manage my. It was only about like kind of tamping them down or numbing them or suppressing them. So step one, and I think a lot of people relate to this, people that I work with, step one is feel the feelings you have, let them move through, and there's always wisdom. There's always awareness. There's always some gift with every feeling. And then on the flip side, kind of the counterpart to that, that's the and paradoxically is cultivate the feelings you want. So
Mm.
it's about like intentionally cultivating, emotional states that are beautiful.
Mm.
That are, it doesn't mean that you don't feel sadness. Sadness can be very beautiful,
Mm.
but sadness used to be something that was to be like moved through as quickly as possible, as opposed to honor. So it's feel the feelings you have, cultivate the feelings you want. And then from there, naturally, your energy, gets more coherent, more aligned. You have more capacity, more bandwidth, more focus, more intention. So energy is kind of at that's what I'm noticing with my clients. I used to just go strategy, strategy, strategy. Now I'm like, oh, energy first, frequency
Mm.
first.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that's why I start all my clients with the dig first. Like, I really can't, I don't even, I truly don't think I can be a very good speaker coach or advisor of any kind unless, like, I know what makes you tick and what's behind this.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
don't do like the dig in the same structure as you do, but I definitely do like a deep dive with people first of like, who are you really?
Mm-hmm.
And tell me what you were like as a kid and what are you great at? We do, Enneagram and, wealth dynamics profiles, strengths finder, saboteur assessment. Like I'm a big kind of assessment person. I love that's the information that we get because what I find is usually people are out of alignment with their true nature, and that's step one,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And the worst thing about that too is that people almost shame themselves, for that. And it's just like, what if we just stopped spending so much time changing or shaming ourselves and just started getting into radical alignment with that?
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yep. Alignment is like
Mm.
the North Star,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. So, what have you been working on recently that you're excited about?
Well, so a few things. I mean, one is reorganizing my life, my business, my messaging around this new awareness.
Mhm.
Like I've been leading with business for a really long time. And I'm not saying I won't anymore, but knowing what I know about energy preceding outcomes, and seeing the impact that it's had on clients, I'm like, that's the message that I really feel called to share in the world. And I want to launch a podcast, kind of exploring these topics and interviewing people that inspire me,
Mm.
not as a marketing strategy, but just as like an offering and a curiosity, So that's what I'm really excited about is this work, deepening and evolving in this work.
Yeah. With everything that's just going on in the world right now, it just feels like there's like a lot of shifting here,
Yeah.
for better, for worse. Like, how do you feel like people expressing themselves is going to show up in the years to come?
It's interesting. That's a really interesting question because what emerged for me as you were asking it is like, well, we have all these channels now for expression. The problem is, what are people expressing and what energy are they expressing from? Like, there's not a lot of awareness, I think, or accountability for the energy from which we express. Let's say, you've seen it yourself, the trolls on social media comments. Like,
Mhm.
people are going to express, and we have more paths to it now than ever. I think the work is, can people take more responsibility for the energy from which, like expressing from anger, without responsibility, right? There's healthy anger, there's healthy expression, and then there's distorted, you know, expression too. And I think that with all these channels now, and now with AI too, like there's a need for people to be more self-aware, take more self-leadership. I mean, God, because then I say that I'm like, what now I'm talking about fixing people, which is not my thing, It's I think it's more like I would love to be a part of the movement towards more beautiful, more aligned, more energy rich self-expression, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it almost sounds like you're trying to match up the person and the words and I love just even the word artistry. I'm sure that's going to show up in your operating system too, because it's not just like expressing for the sake of expressing. There's almost a beauty to it, or yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that I'll just interject that about 5 years ago in the middle of the night, I woke up middle of the night, just full download of a poem. I've never written a poem before. I haven't written one since. And it came fully formed, a rhyming poem.
Wow.
And it took a while, but eventually I was like, I think I'm going to turn this into a book. And I did, and I got it illustrated, and it became this poetic transmission of artistry, of creativity, of courage. It's a 50-page, it looks like a children's book, but it's literally a mythic um, tale or fable that's an archetypal hero's journey from divine dissonance to full self-expression. That's the journey.
Hmm.
She's basically a character wants to fly and decides to build a set of wings and take off. And that's the
Hmm.
that's the story, but it's packed with like heart coherence and alchemy and distortion and projection and all these things that she moves through in the course of her journey. And
Hmm.
that's artistry. That's like self-expression with artistry. So I do very much value that. And now I perform that when I do keynotes. I've started including that. It's a 5-minute performance piece into the keynote.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks.
What would you say the people closest to you would say that your biggest or best superpowers are?
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of people would say that I practice what I preach and that I'm very committed to doing my own alchemical like work to show up energy rich. You know, I'm
Mhm.
not perfect by any stretch, certainly. And I'm pretty self-aware and I practice what I walk the talk more
Mhm.
than ever, still working on that. So modeling the change I want to see in the world, right? Like be the change, sort of
Mhm.
being real about when I'm not and adjusting, coming back into alignment. So that's one thing. And then another would be I think I have a real talent for expression, for taking these concepts and distilling them into ways that people can receive them, particularly through the book, the story, you know, like the creation of a
Mhm.
framework or a way to bring something to the world that people can really grab onto it.
Is there something for you on the other side of expression? Or is it like expression for the sake of expression? Or is it like after you express, then you're free or do you know what I mean?
I do. I do. I think it might just be for the sake of it. I
Hmm.
mean, it might be. And if it's not, then it would be for growth, for evolution, like self-expression in service of maybe contribution. Although I used to be all about like, oh, purpose and contribution and bring your gifts so that, and I feel like that's kind of still in the realm of ego achievement, you know? I'm sort of moving past that through like just express for the sake of it and don't be attached to anything on the other side of it. And maybe I'm still learning that part myself, you know?
Yeah. How about struggles? Like, do you have thematic things that throughout your life are have just been tricky for you?
Yeah, addiction. I mean, I
Mhm.
would say having, you know, everybody these days, right? ADD, but I was diagnosed in college and then again later in life. Like, you know, I've always had sort of that dopamine thing where
Mhm.
I pursue the new, pursue the shiny object, get distracted, leave things half finished, you know, and that sort of completely, you know, weirdly I've got this high achiever too that's like, I want to win, you know. So I've battled with those things a lot. You know, and also um tricky things, you know, so many things, Erin. Food, you know, when I say addiction, I mean it like kind of across the board. I don't know that I was like quote unquote alcoholic full blown, but I certainly drank a lot and partied a lot for a lot of years, and that was hard on my body. So, you know, and I've given up these things one by one. And so for a while I joked, it was like whack-a-mole. It's like give up this thing and then this thing pops up, you know? Um, so I still get that. I still get that. You know, because I still need work on like processing my emotions, and I'll still pay it to be like, why am I doing this online shopping right now? I'm trying to cover something up here, you know?
Mhm.
So, just catching myself in the moment. I tend to be, you know, very demanding of myself, of others, you know, so that's a thing. There's
Mhm.
more. It's a good
No,
start.
that's good. Would you say like the things that you're chasing, like in the more addictive or uh, f- fun pursuit of fun or pleasure, or I don't know, like what is the goal there? Is it distraction? Is it um,
Pleasure,
mhm,
distraction.
mhm,
Yeah, I think both of those things are big.
mhm,
You know, there's a lot maybe to like the idea that this achiever in me, I'm an Enneagram 3, this desire to achieve and like there's a lot of pressure with that. There's a lot of pressure. And so then there's the desire to like not achieve and like completely,
mhm,
you know, blow things off. And I do that. I do that. I've done that. And that's been me being someone who's overcommitted to things, blown things off, not completed things, and then felt really ashamed and guilty about that. So that's like that cycle.
Yeah.
And you talked about it, like, that's been a whole thing too. Can I be gentle with myself? Can I be, gracious with myself and with others too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's imagine that you've lived a very long, full life and you find yourself, you're 100 years old, you're ready to move on to the next chapter, and you're surrounded by your loved ones and you're on your deathbed and you have this opportunity to just share your wisdom. What would be the things that you would want to tell the people you care about most?
I mean, I would say this is a theme over and over. It's like listen to your heart, like open your heart, even if you have to crack it open the hard way, like allow yourself to open and feel because it's in that, how Rumi would say he said the wound is where the light enters. It's like that's when you activate that heart
Mm,
power and run that through your whole system and you come from that place like that's the place to live from, that's the place to create from. We're so caught up in the mind. I was so caught up in the mind. I still get so caught up in the mind and the strategy and the ideas and like dropping into the heart is such a powerful practice. I would say that's the one piece of wisdom that I'm still reminding myself and I still get to see it around me and in me. But if like live from that place and cultivate that energy every single day.
mm. I love that. I wrote that down as a non-negotiable. Open your heart even if you have to crack it. Like that's like a non-negotiable,
Yeah,
oh, like yeah, just there's no other way.
exactly. That's where we get access to like real meaning and power and connection and creativity, artistry, all of it, expression.
Mm,
It comes from that place.
yeah, that's so cool. Is there anything else that feels important about your story before we start talking about your operating system?
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like a big part of the journey has been like as a child being raised my parents were not super religious, but I went to Catholic school. So I had like a really strong worldview that was religion oriented. And then at like 18, 19, I kind of walked away from that completely and self-declared like I'm an atheist. I believe in nothing. And then the journey back to belief, but not necessarily in a religion, but more in a in what a power greater than me, in love as part of that and consciousness and like the worldview turning upside down has been really, really powerful for me. And I've seen it be really powerful for clients too. Like when we have a worldview that life is all about the mind and achievement and linear growth and Newtonian physics and a mechanistic universe, you know, gosh, it's very it's 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 devoid of
Mm,
real beauty and meaning. And I really believe that if people could get how incredibly magical and mystical the universe really is with
mm,
all its scientific glory, I think people would, and that's a big part of my journey. And I think it's a big part of what I'm hoping is awakening in the world right now. Now.
mm. Okay, cool. There's a part of you that's like, you know, early on in your story, you were talking using a lot of sensory words like being seen, being heard. Like it's like this very sensory experience of being human and even just the way you're talking now it almost seems like as you've gone through just this spiritual experience it's like access to other realms or something like
Yeah.
a sensory experience in another realm I it's is
Mm.
this resonating with you I it's not
Oh
fully
yeah.
formed.
Yeah, no, I don't know exactly how to articulate it either, but yes, like just to give you an example, like a big thing that's emerged for me in the last couple of years has been smell. I'm like obsessed with smells, with natural smells like, perfumes and essential oils and just like this, it's sensory, but it's an access point to mysticism. And like,
Mm.
in think about it, incense. The perfume comes from originally incense, like burning plants and materials. This is thousands and thousands of years old, connected to humans' search for meaning. And
Mm.
there's something about like access to beyond through, yeah, sensory experiences, drumming and music and smells and burning and incense. So I don't know what it is either, but I've been on the cusp of that, exploring that myself too.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to share with you some of these words, and I have so many questions
Okay.
just to ask you about all this. Um, So, as my viewers know at this point, I've been taking a bunch of notes in the background here, and I'm going to share this with you, Michelle, after the session in case you're curious. Forgive me
Mm.
for misspellings and all sorts of other
Oh,
errors,
good.
but yeah, as you were telling your story, I'm capturing it, but I'm also capturing these one-word themes that were popping
Mm.
up. Sometimes you're saying them, sometimes I'm like more intuiting them, but then I'm capturing them on one page, and then they start to kind of come to life for me. I start to just see how they are moving around. So nothing's been deleted at this point, but that I'm starting to like kind of cluster them together. You're like, all right,
Mm.
which words are playing together? Ultimately, we like to get these operating systems down to 10 words or less
Mm.
just to get it really simple and dialed in. And so sometimes at this point, it becomes kind of a letting go process or allowing one word to swallow up another word.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start off and just talk about what I'm seeing here for
Okay.
your operating system. Like, first of all, like anytime I look at people's operating systems, I almost have like a little metaphor that comes to me. And for you, like it almost feels like I'm almost seeing like a planet with like these really cool sort of sparkly Saturn rings around it. Like
Totally.
just it feels like there's like a lot of like kind of like out there energy, but
Right.
it's like also still very like physical and real. It's very
Mhm.
dynamic. It's almost like I'm kind of like seeing like the planet is maybe turning a different way and the rings are going a different way and the rings are made up of stardust and it's just like really complex and cool. Um, so
I
there's a
love it.
lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, that's my brother once said when he first visited my house that I decorated in Colorado. He came by and he told my parents, my parents asked, "How's the house?" And he goes, "It's cool. It's just like Michelle. It's colorful, creative, and complicated."
Yeah. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Hmm.
Who would want to be described like that?
Yeah.
So I have to say, one of the big words that popped up for me is just like this idea of light, of
Hmm.
like chasing the light, being the light, seeing the light. It's just like there's
Yeah.
something about brightness with you. Um, and it just feels like there's so many different expressions of what light could be.
Mm.
And it also seems to have like some kind of like direct through line to energy. Like it's
Yeah.
just like the more you see the light about things and people and yourself, it's just like it seems like you get so energized by it. I personally don't think your spiritual path is going to be slowing down anytime soon because of that, because it's like the more you see, the more light that
Yeah.
you're letting crack in, right?
Right.
The more energy you're getting from it. So it feels like it's feeding you somehow.
100%. 100%.
I mean, sometimes people get exhausted by this work. So that's not true of everyone, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm just starting with this middle cluster first, but yeah, fly, shine, artistry, light, like it just feels like this creativity,
Yeah.
expression, explosion within
Yes.
here. And I'll jump down to express since I just said that. So like express and sense. Um, I'm not sure the relationship between these two as a cluster either, but it just seems like you want people to feel it and then talk about it and then feel it and talk about it and like sense it and share it. And like there's just like this very it's again kind of like the flow of your operating system moving and active and
Well, and if you think about it, expression is a very outwardly focused thing, and the sensing, it's like a receiving, it's inward. So it's like the
mm,
giving and receiving of the gifts of life. And it's like giving and receiving. in all things.
Yeah.
There's like an inhale, exhale, yin yang kind of co-creation.
Yes, I love that. And then these two higher and uplift. One might be able to swallow the other one up here, but I'm changing
Mhm.
this location just because I like higher being higher. Uh, just personal preference.
Yeah.
But there's something, and also uplift, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and it also is just like as we're talking it out, it's like feeling pretty attached to energy.
Energy.
Like
Yep.
I'm almost wanting to get a little creative here with Google Docs, which is never super fulfilling, but let's see how this goes. But it's like things being in service to like this
Yeah.
big energy, right?
Yes.
Um, and then activate and align, I thought was another fun little
100%.
duo, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And like what happens when we align and activate our energy? Like kapow.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Curious and wisdom. These feel not as essential. Um,
Hmm.
but like it just feels like it's a thing that's driving you. Maybe it's somehow over here. Maybe it's like a we'll probably have to delete some of these, but maybe it's like feeding into like this uplifting
Yeah.
aspect or I don't know.
Well, and it's also like the curiosity and gaining wisdom. This is a big driver for me that leads to like that leads to alignment, activation, and enlightenment, awakening. Like that's very, very. I'm going to name my podcast the Wisdom Channel,
Hmm.
because I just it feels to me like there's an ancient future, convergence right now of like ancient wisdom, modern science converging around, light. Actually, like the energy and light. These two things are really in play big time.
Yeah. Okay. So wisdom does feel pretty important here. I might put this to the side here.
Mhm.
All right. Talk to me about so these words contribute and value.
Mm.
They came up really early,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think they were the first two. And you
Mhm.
were just talking. I was asking you why you do what you do, and those were the two of the first things that came up. Like, does that like as the conversation has gone on, they felt less potent. It felt more like, hey, you actually
Yeah.
don't really have to like the value is in the expression. It's not what's on the other side of it.
100%. Yeah. And that's moved away from the top values for me
Yeah.
too. Because I think a lot of that came from like justifying value and having to, you know
Yes.
what I mean? And that's less a driver now.
Hmm. Okay. Let's see how we're doing here. This is a fun shape.
Yeah.
All right. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right. We're at 11. Um,
Hmm.
well, how's this feeling so far? Is there anything on here that you're like, not just fully resonating, or is there anything that's like a hell yes on here?
Oh God, it's hard. I mean, the hell yes is like artistry, energy, align, activate.
How about shine and light? Can one of these swallow up the other
Yeah,
ones?
for sure. For
Which one do you
sure.
like better? Which
Well,
feels more resonant?
and maybe light. I mean,
Okay.
my whole brand has been superstar, right? Shine your light,
Yeah,
all that.
that's
That's part of the
true.
thing.
Yeah. All
Hmm.
right. Um,
But Shine does feel like it's part of the older brand, the older like worldview of like contribution and value generation. Like to me, the light itself, I think that I would put that higher up. And yeah.
so like maybe switch these around.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. I was
Okay.
saying I was still back at Shine. I was like, oh, I miss Shine. I love that word, but I think it is light.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, tell you what, just so you're not sad. I'm just gonna put it down here as like a
Yeah,
little twinkly reminder.
yeah.
Um, okay. Now we're at 10. And it's nicely balanced.
Nice. It's beautiful. I love
Hmm.
it. It looks like a person shining their light,
It
like its
kind of
arms spread
does.
open.
Kind of does. Like maybe go into their like their what chakra is that you call it, like above the head,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this
It's like a
access.
toroidal field.
Yeah, right. Um, what about higher and uplift? Do we could one swallow the other, or do they both feel
Sure.
critical?
No, no. I think yeah, either one. I'm not really sure. I'm not attached to either.
Hmm.
Maybe elevation. No, I mean either one. Any of those, but I do think they're kind of the same thing.
Hmm. I'm gonna go with uplift since you don't
Okay.
have a
Yeah, cool.
it could even to play with this, could even make this part of the center console here, and
Yeah.
that I kind of like align and activate
Ooh.
almost being like your
Hmm.
two arms. It's more like it's almost like the doing, like
Yeah.
the worker bees of your operating system.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Hmm.
Some light lift. So, what do you think? Well, first, how's this looking for you? Like, is this
Amazing.
okay? Cool.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like energy's at the top, or is there something else that
No,
everything's pointing to?
I feel like it's okay. Hear me out on this one. The output, the energy is an expression. Like, is light? No, maybe it is energy. I don't know. I'm not sure. I
Here,
feel
let's
like
play with it. We can
there's,
just try it on.
yeah,
And
there's,
sometimes when you see the sticky note move, it's like you know exactly where everything belongs. Let's just swap them first.
yeah, yeah. And maybe like even uplift, by the way, it's like the whole thing is uplifting. Do you see the shape is moving
Mm.
up, right? It's
Hmm?
almost like inherent in the shape that there's an uplifting process that it's
Yeah.
moving. Um,
Maybe we could take it off because the
yeah,
the arrows could almost capture that
they are
too.
doing the work. Yeah.
Could even put a third here.
Yeah.
Oops. Maybe.
And it's cool. Let's see, sense, express. I don't know. I think express, okay, it feels like there's also like a pulling up from the earth. A big part of my work, I forgot to mention this, is like aligning with nature and the seasons. So I've
Mm,
I've brought my whole business and life into great, like the winter is a season of hibernation, ideation, possibility, dream, right? And then the summer is like full self-expression, full bloom, out in the world, a lot of energy, a lot of movement. So there's like this grounding, there's the work up, but there's also the work down. And I think sensing
mm,
and wisdom are grounding. There's energy throughout all
mm,
of it. Like there's energy that we pull up from the earth, there's energy that we, send back down into it. Like there's an
mm.
up and down aspect, just like there's an in and out aspect.
Yeah.
Um,
You
yeah.
know, let me just try something. So you use the word sense and wisdom together in like a grounding way. Like I wonder if express needs to be more like
Yeah.
up here, and sensing and wisdom is more like your earthiness.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like gathering the information.
Yeah. And
And
then the
from that,
artistry, that's fun because what's interesting about this? It kind of does go with the chakras, right? At the base
Mhm,
level, and it's not on here at all, is like community, belonging, connection, love, humanity, like
mhm,
the lower, the more primal energies.
mhm.
Um, at the bottom and the more like exalted, ethereal, light energies at the top, right?
Right.
And
Mm,
artistry is perfectly situated. It's like in that sacral area, which is the sacral chakra. That's creativity in there.
mm,
Um, and then as it moves up, right, it's like expression up through the throat and then the light, kind
yes.
of,
Ooh, I wonder if this should go here.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
mm,
Um,
hmm. I'm almost wanting express and artistry together for some
okay.
reason.
Yeah, yeah,
Then I'm
totally.
like, well, what do I do with energy? I don't know. Um,
Um, Energy is the flow through this whole model.
You know what?
No.
We're gonna do something crazy here. We can do
Right.
whatever the hell we want because we're making this whole thing up,
We're
Michelle.
making it up.
All right. It's almost like
Yeah.
this is like
Something different. Yeah.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. All right. It's almost like the background, right? Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
okay. Yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
this is exactly what I was talking about. This is like the
Mhm.
spinning star thingy.
Well, and that's funny because I just came up with like a 3D model of my model. Like I've been working on my new model, which is funny because this is starting to resemble it.
Oh,
But it's like a Merkaba. Are you familiar with the Merkaba shape? It's a stellated octahedron. But I didn't
no.
even know what that was until ChatGPT explained it. But it's
Yeah.
a star, but it's a 3D star. Um, and the idea is that like, these facets of the star, like alignment with your beliefs, your energy, your purpose, your story and all this, and the light shines through this, prism, and it scatters the light. It like sends the light out in this way. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. New shape, new shape.
Okay.
All right. Love
I love
that.
it.
Love, love, love. What if
Yeah.
we do that? Is that
Yeah.
cool?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Gosh, that's so fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool. I love it. This is a cool process.
It is super fun. And like the nice thing about it, like I use this once we start getting to this point as like this is your core message. So
Yeah.
now it's like your message just becomes a matter of explaining this.
Yeah.
But here's another fun thing about this. In doing over 1,000 of these over 13 years, people do not change this very often. Like
Mhm.
the operating systems. I've never had someone change their dig word,
Wow.
which is crazy. Um, but what I love about that, if this especially if this continues to prove true over the years, is that it's something you can actually lean into and be
Mm,
like, okay, I'm going to change and evolve, but my purpose isn't.
mm-mm.
It's what I change and evolve through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we
Right.
become a better version of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's like even more it's like fast tracked when we're also the teacher of it, when we're not
Yeah.
just doing the practicing. And I think that's why I've landed in this more thought leadership space because
Yeah.
it's for me, it's not quite fulfilling enough to just do the self work. I want to teach other people because the truth is nobody that I've ever worked with has anything like this.
Right.
No one.
Right.
Like
Right.
everybody is so ridiculously unique and like nobody believes me and they think I'm just trying to be polite or, a special snowflake. No, like we are like legit so unique from each other and have so much to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny, but that's one of the reasons I ended up with the superstar like brand after all these years, because I went through a whole rebrand process, and the guy and we ended up right back at superstar. It was because one of the things we discovered is that a star has a unique light signature.
Hmm.
And every single star in the sky, believe it or not, has a different spectrum. Like you can identify every single one, just like a fingerprint on a human. Every
Hmm.
star has its own light signature, its own like the way the light is, the spectrum of it. And that's just like humans. Like we each have a unique, just like you're saying, a unique signal that we're
Yeah,
sending out into the world, and yeah, it's at the base of everything.
that's so cool. All right. How's this feeling to you? Have
I
I done
love it.
anything that makes you like upset as you were talking?
No, this is beautiful. I love it.
I was just kind of like pulling the star to be like this the star. Um, but yeah, this is really cool. This is really cool. What would you say, like, out of all these words, like, is if we were to look at this almost like the sports team that is playing the life of Michelle, like, who is the team captain? Who's in charge? Who's calling the shots? Who's the most important one? Even though you know you need everybody to play the game.
I mean, I think it's energy. I think that's
Okay.
at the back. That's underneath. It's at least that's where I am now. I know you said that it doesn't ever change, but I didn't. So I'm trying to think, would that have been true 15 years ago? No, I didn't even know. I wasn't even
Right.
aware.
Right.
In which case, if it were 15 years ago, maybe expression,
Mm.
maybe expression.
So one of the ways that when we get to this point to figure out like who is the dig word here is I look into the superpowers and the shadows at this point. So like when you were doing the whole overachiever thing, were you just was like a major thing you were experienced was like just not having energy or having bad energy or like was that the punishment almost?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like being asked to tone it down as a child, like
Yeah,
being told you're too much. It was you were probably energetically overwhelming people around you.
100%. Yeah,
Um, because like overachievement, I mean, that could even fall in like expression, right? But it was an
it was.
authentic expression, so it didn't give you the energy.
Right. And it was a way to channel the energy
Mm-hmm.
since it couldn't be channeled into like being loud and being, theatrical and dramatic, and it channeled it into getting A's. So
Yeah.
it was a way to move energy through my system
Mm-hmm.
that worked
Mm-hmm.
ish.
Some other superpowers that you had mentioned that you're just a super committed person. Like you don't do things halfway. You do it full energy. You also described, or somebody maybe has described you in the past of being energy rich, which I've never heard that term before.
My term. I'm thinking about like my book. I might be the keynote. That might be the title. That's what I've been considering. Energy rich.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a passive aggressive way.
Yeah, no, yeah. That I'm telling you, it just dropped in like a month
Wow.
or two ago. I'm like, I've been using this term for 11 years. What
Mm.
if this is it? Like, I've been using it, throwing it around, never realized that that might be it. Nobody's owned it, nobody uses it. Um, Energy rich.
I am giving like full dig blessings on that one
Yay!
because I mean you literally have like a bursting star of energy powering your entire existence and purpose. Like, I think that's a really good green light to
Okay.
pull on that thread.
There we go. Good. Look at that. Validation right at the end of the day on a Friday.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like
Yeah.
that feels great to hear because that was one of the words I was saying, energy. But then energy rich was like the brand that I was thinking, or the term that could be like my thing that I gift.
Yeah. Man, I normally go orange on the dig word, but it just doesn't hit the same way. So I'll have to figure out something else. Maybe we can. Here we
Purple.
go. There we go. We'll just do that. Um,
Okay. I
yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, congratulations. You have a dig word. You
love
have
it.
an operating system. And yeah, this is pretty cool. And so if this is your message, this is your truth, this is your purpose, this is what you're here to learn and teach about. How freeing.
Yes. That's such perfect timing too. Do you know how long I've been looking for this and years? I've been like, what am I really about? I can't just be about how to build a business. Like that's not it. And so I've been trying like I had all these like, oh, maybe I'm like self-inspired leadership, and maybe it's gatherings to gateways, and like I went through all these iterations. I even created a new website last year, and it's like, oh, that's still not it. And then energy rich just like a month ago dropped in, and look at this.
Yeah. Every time you say that, I get chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
Okay. Well,
there
you're on
it
the
is.
right path, my friend. I can
Oh,
feel it. And
thank you. It's so cool to get to witness your brilliance and like the work that you do and how you do it. It's really a special talent and a model that you've developed, a system process. It's really, really cool. What's your dig word?
authentic.
Okay. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of like
Yeah.
twinkies a little, cousins,
Yeah. And
cousins.
I have some expression in mind too. And
Mm.
frequency is kind of the base of my is my operating system looks like a hawk. It's like a V. But
Ooh,
at the base is frequency. So yeah, well, I think we have a lot of alignments on this. And it's
we
so fun to
do.
meet other people in the wild who nobody's operating system looks the same, but not even similar, frankly. But you find clusters of people that just have like a lot of overlapping words, and it's just like they can instantly make magic together. It's just so
Yeah.
cool. So
Oh,
who knows what we'll do together, huh?
yeah, yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah, exactly. I'm just really excited about the future.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for being on today.
Well, thank you, Erin, for inviting me. I'm so glad we did this. I really
Me too.
appreciate it.